Hey y'all, welcome back to another video for No Melanin. I am excited as usual about today's topic because we're talking about albino versus PWA. So many people, y'all, so many people want to know, like, what does PWA even mean? I often explain it in comments, but now we're going to do it in video format. And of course, we know the questions and things will continue, but I just wanted to put this video out here for all my people who've been seeing it and you want to know. Now you will know. So if you're ready, let's go. If I had to start anywhere, I'd have to start back at the basics, which is being in school. You're learning about different things. Somewhere along the way, you start seeing these white insects or white animals. You probably remember seeing the word albino somewhere near or close to it. Now, this is what I say. I always say it's a descriptor of a person who has albinism. It describes a person who has albinism, a person, or it could be a thing like an animal or an insect or something like that. But it's a descriptive way to describe someone who has albinism. And albinism is a genetic condition which is caused by little to no melanin pigment being present in the hair, skin, and eyes of the affected individual. So going back to science class, you're seeing the frogs, you're seeing the alligators, you're seeing the crocodiles, you're seeing bears, lions. I mean, albinism is all across the board. If you've ever gone to the circus, I'm sure you've seen certain circus animals when they come out for different routines. You'll see like this superior ivory colored white elephant come out with all the other gray elephants, and the white elephant is the one that obviously steals the attention because why not? It has albinism. You have all of these moments and you probably really weren't understanding what you were looking at, but that was albinism. That is albinism. And it's still very much a part of our world today. As I said before, you see it in insects, you see it in animals, and you also see it in human beings, such as myself and others. It's something that is so beautiful. As I said before, it's such a beautiful condition. When it comes down to our lives as people with albinism, we don't live a life that's too different from any others. Difficulties arise when you have people who don't understand that this condition is simply a genetic condition. And so because it causes us to look so differently on the outside as well as the inside when it comes to our eyes, it causes a lot of mistreatment. It causes a lot of negativity. It causes a lot of issues to arise that can do more harm than good for the person on the receiving end of those things. We are those who are on the receiving end. Those who are on the opposite end are those who are able to hurl those things at us in a destructive, disruptive manner that can make or break us. And really, it doesn't make us into anything more than feeling like we're less than or we don't matter simply because of the way that we're being treated. When you talk about person with albinism or people with albinism and why it is a counter to referring to someone as an albino, which you just heard me say a minute ago, it basically just describes a person who has albinism. And you might be saying to yourself, that's so harmless. That's so non-negative, non-combative. It might be that way to you, but for those who sat in biology classes or they sat amongst family members or they sat amongst anyone who was involved in any type of way with believing superstitious beliefs, myths, delving into witchcraft or the occult, and even people who maybe don't do any of the things that I just mentioned. They just like to be mean to people. They just like to talk about people. They just like to be ugly or nasty to people. They don't necessarily have to be in any of those categories. If they see something that's different or if they see someone that they feel like they can be better than or do better than, then they'll point at them and make them feel as though they are less than. All those things considered, you have those types of words, those phrases, those menacing things that were said about people such as myself. When children went back out or adults went back out, they would look at us and objectify us to be anything but a human being. That is why if you ever look on the United Nations webpage, you'll see where their mantra is that we're humans, we're not ghosts. They say that because we are treated as though we are from the supernatural. We're immortal. We're weird. We're something of a demonic or evil origin. If you watch the video that I did before this one about myths on albinism, you'll see where I covered a few of those things there. They might seem jestful or playful in nature, but this stuff is really serious. You have a lot of people who believe these things to the extent of where they are killing those of us with albinism. They try to take our body parts, body dismemberments. They do so many things against us. And if you're not dealing with that, you have to deal with people who will say rude things to you. They'll bully you or they'll harass you or they'll tease you menacingly over things that you can't help or things that you can't can't control. It can do a lot on a person's mental, especially when you're talking about someone who's trying to, for themselves, figure out what it is that they have or what it is that they can do, or they're trying to grasp with being different. So when you have people who take time out of their day to be rude or ugly to you, or to call you a pig, or to call you a ghost, or to make fun of your lack of a skin tone or little that you have, or they do things to just poke at you so that you'll feel bad, so that you'll run and cry, or that you'll hold your head down when you walk into a room, or you won't hold it up and be happy to be who you are. These types of reasons are why there are many within the albinism community who do not want to be associated with the word albino. Yes, it might do exactly what I said. It might describe a person who has albinism. You might want to leave it there, but you can't because of the things that I just stated. If you need any more assistance, I encourage you to look online, search and read the stories of people who have this condition, who talked about how they were treated, how they grew up, especially people who come from communities of color. It's a lot harder for us because our communities of color have melanin. And so a lot of times when you are born different, or when you look different from the rest, it's almost like you're the run of the group. It can be very hard for you. It can be very sorrowful for you. It can be a lot of things that aren't necessarily happy or joyful because we look so different. We are so fair skinned. Many of us have brightly colored hair. My hair is more of a sandy blonde, but albinism has multiple types. So you have some who have white hair, some who have like a yellow cornstarch hair color, others who have like a lighter beach blonde color. All in all, we all have this different range of hair colors, some who are really fair skinned, others who are moderately fair skinned. So it's a lot that comes into that capsule when you're talking about being from a community of color and dealing with the bias or the hardship or the discrimination against you because of the way that you look. For my sisters and myself, we dealt with that times 10. And even now we have people who will still try and come up to us and make us feel indifferent because of the way that we are. We've grown so much. We've experienced so much. So it doesn't hit the same way that it hit when we were younger. But that's why we have these discussions, and we have to point it out. We have to say that albinism is beautiful, and that you might want to be referred to as an albino, but then you have others who want to be referred to as persons or people with albinism, and we have to respect both sides. You might be sitting back saying, well, Janessa, I got talked about in school. I was bullied. I didn't have albinism. I wasn't an albino, but life wasn't too great for me. I got made fun of because I wore the same pair of shoes to school every day, or I had holes in my jeans, or my mom and them, we didn't have a great place to stay. People used to make fun of us because we lived in the projects, or we lived in the hood, or we lived here, this or that. We didn't have food. We were given things. You can say all of those things, and I have to say that I can agree with you, because not just for us was albinism a part of the struggle growing up with how people treated us, but it was also due to a lot of the things that you might be sitting back saying. Not having a lot of things, being poor, not having all of the right living situations or things going on, and you have people who will talk about you because of that. My family and I have been through a great amount of things that definitely go outside of the realm of albinism. So like I said before, I can understand you on that 110%. That is why you should be able to understand not only myself, but others as well when we talk about how this word has been used to try and flip our worlds upside down and make us feel less than. Just like you can remember how you felt in those situations when they talked about you because your clothes may have been too big, or because your shoes were too small, or you might have had a mouth, when your shoes, you've worn them so much that they open in the front and you have that tongue right there in the middle, and you like, it's almost like you're flapping when you're walking. I had those types of shoes, and you probably are saying I had them too. So you know what I'm saying? We get each other. Or maybe that wasn't your case. Maybe you grew up and you didn't have money issues. You didn't grow up poor. You weren't talked about for those things, but maybe you were talked about because you were dyslexic, or maybe you were talked about because you had a speech impediment. These things are not results of albinism, but in the spirit of togetherness, of understanding, we can all relate to each other. Relatability is, if you ask me, one of the strongest connections that we as human beings have, because we're able to connect on shared experiences. We might not all have come from the same neck of the woods, but we can connect on knowing and understanding what it feels like to be treated indifferently because of something that you cannot help. When people say that, oftentimes, well, I got talked about too. Like I said, this is a relatability moment. You might might not have went through the same things that we've gone through as people with albinism, but somewhere in your life, maybe you can relate. Maybe you as a parent, you saw your children being made fun of or talked about due to different things that were going on in their lives. So you can get this on a greater scale and understand why this call card matters, why these categories matter. You have those of us in the albinism community who don't mind being called an albino because we understand what the word means. We really don't care like that. You know what I mean? You can call me an albino. Even if you're trying to be ugly about it, I'm just gonna look at you and just let you go on about your day, because it's doing more harm for you than it is for me. Because if you have to go out of your way to try to make me feel bad about something that is beautiful, first of all, and then something that I was genetically born with that I can't help, again, that speaks to you. So I just pray for people like that. Forgive them, love them, and let them move on in their space and in their place. And as far as I'm concerned, I know who I am. And it took me a minute to get there because it was hard for me growing up. It was hard for me understanding and loving this condition because of the way that I was treated with it, because of the way that I saw my sisters being treated with it. It wasn't easy for us, but thanks be unto God, we made it through. Thank God we made it through. Being here in this space now, going through all that we went through, all that I went through, and the transformation that God brought me through, I'm really gonna let you now at my big age tear me down. I can't do that. You can't get this. You can't get this. This work that God did in me, I can't give you the opportunity to take that from me. I can't even give you the entertainment of the day. But again, that's how I feel. That's not how other people feel. Just because someone says they want to be referenced or referred to as a person or people with albinism, it doesn't take away from them. It doesn't mean that they don't feel the same way that I feel. It just means that they don't want to be associated with that word. Does that mean that I'm any greater or less than them, or they are any greater or less than I am? No, it does not. It just means that we have different preferences. So that is why on No Melanin, as well as other social media platforms that you see from other advocates or other people who speak about albinism, they will do the words interchangeably. They'll say albinos and or people with albinism, PWAs or something like that, because they're appealing to both sides. Again, one side is not better than the other. It's just whatever the person's preference is, because all in all, it's albinism, and it is insanely beautiful. I hope that this explained it for you. I don't want to belabor the point. I feel like I explained it enough. Let's talk about it some more in the comments and tell me what you think. This is our community where we're able to talk about it and be here for one another. That is why I love sharing my experiences. You wouldn't have convinced me when I was 14, 15, 12, 13, 16, 17 years old that this is something that I would be doing. God has a funny way of taking your sorrow, taking what caused you so much pain and using it for his glory. My sisters and I just didn't see it for myself. I didn't see us doing this, but no, melanin is what we do. It's what we love. It's what is a part of the fabric of what makes us who we are. It brings us no greater joy than to do this. I hope that this was enough information for you, and maybe we can do a part 2 where we dive deeper into albinism and look at all of the great ways that albinism is a part of creation. It's a part of this world. In the meantime, like I said, let's discuss it. Let's chop it up in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and catch up on all of my latest content, because there's a lot there for you to view. And follow me over on Instagram, Twitter, X, and Facebook at No Melanin. I love y'all so much, and I hope that y'all have a fantastic day. Bye.